There we go. Hello. Can you hear
Hello.
me?
Yeah.
You can hear me, I see, because you said hello.
Well, can you hear me?
I can hear you. So today the technology is going a bit better than last time, so that's awesome.
Yeah. Question first. Can you hear any fan noise from my side?
No.
Good, because I made a video yesterday where I had a fan on and headset in, and apparently the fan noise was all over the video, so I just want to make sure it doesn't happen today.
Fair enough.
Okay, so good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yeah, it's
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, my night was terrible, so I'm a little bit scatterbrained. Anyways, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the last Forge for Christ service this year.
Da, 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 da. The last
And
Sunday of
today's
this year.
theme, as you have hopefully read, is the Danish Christmas tradition origin. Blah. Like I said, scatterbrained. Apparently, that also
And
changed my speech.
while I laugh at Michael, I would like to say before we go into all this, since not everyone watches at the end, that I really appreciate to have this chance of doing this research, and it has been very interesting and eye-opening for me. And there's of course been my own subjective opinions in it when I've been learning, and I really hope that this way, like the whole Forge for Christ thing of we studying, learning, and then telling you guys, it's helped you as much as me, because sometimes you just don't have energy to go and look into the Bible research because there's so many websites, and are they trustworthy? And someone who is on education right now, I'm actually learning about how to know if a source is trustworthy. So it's actually been a training for me with this within my studying, which has nothing to do with being a Christian or anything like that. So that's been a very interesting thing. And like I said, I really appreciate it that I tried this. It was very stressful because I really wanted to cancel at times, but I also was like, no, I got this chance and this chance, and I'm going to do it. Also because you can't do Christmas all the times of the year. I don't find it fits as much. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate Michael allowing me, since at the end of the day, he is the founder of the whole thing and the boss.
You're very welcome. It's been very interesting. And for people who might not want to watch this whole thing, I want to just mention that the next year's Forge for Crash, which will be, if I'm not mistaken, the 5th of January, um, is going to be a sort of introduction service. We're basically going to redo our first with introducing both of us, our backgrounds, who we are, and why we do this, and our position within this church.
The why.
Just so that, yeah, so that if you hadn't seen that one, which goes all the way back to March, I believe, then you'll find out why you should listen to the two nutcases that we are. Yeah. But yeah, so that's the first service of next year, next Sunday, in case anybody's interested.
I can't believe that next year's on Wednesday. It's like, oh boy,
Yep.
where did it go? It's like
Yeah.
It's like the whole of December has been 5 days.
Yeah. So with that out of the way, Mariana, take it away for your last service of the year.
Kim. And then let's start with Michael talking, with giving us some Bible verses. I'll take it away by telling Michael to take it away if he found some. But I did a bit different one this time. I actually sent Michael on a task to find the Bible verses instead of finding them myself, to see, because I believe it said that in the Bible. And sometimes it's easier to just go on the search button and on the Bible app or something and look into Bible verses about this and that. That's what I do a lot. But yeah, this time it was Michael's job, so let's see what he found for us.
Well, the first one you wanted me to find was where it mentions about the tree of life, which is is not just a Christian concept, but actually is in various religions. And given that we are in Scandinavia, it is also a big thing in Norse mythology, which is called Yggdrasil, Tree of Life. Yes, I had a period in my childhood where I was obsessed with Norse mythology.
Which is good, because it's good to learn about things. One should be open, just not too open.
And Greek.
Okay.
Anyways, that's not about this. So the Tree of Life is actually only mentioned one spot in the Bible, and that is in Genesis chapter 2, verse 9. And when you see me look up, it's because I have rearranged my office, so I actually have a TV screen up here so I can have it in big, so I don't have to squint at a computer screen. Just so you guys are aware.
Yeah.
So in Genesis chapter 2, verse 9, it says, God made all kinds of trees grow from the ground, trees beautiful to look at and good to eat. The tree of life was in the middle of the garden, also the tree of knowledge of good and evil. What I mean by that is the tree of life is also the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is why Adam and Eve wasn't allowed to eat from its fruit, because as we have found out with humanity, the responsibility of understanding the concept of good and evil, we suck at majorly. I mean, just take a look around the world, you'll see all the evidence on that one. But yeah,
which we can go deeper into another day.
Just wanted to mention it.
And we've also basically talked about it a lot in the free will, what you not call it, service. But yeah, so Danish Christmas traditions. Now that was an interesting one, because it's actually it's difficult because it's not much about being a Christian. Most of Danish traditions are based on non-Danish things. Surprise, surprise, not really though. I asked about that with the Tree of Life, because in some perspectives, the Christmas tree represents the Tree of Life, and then all the gifts underneath are supposed to represent the fruits of it. But that was just one very short, simple version of it. So I just wanted to tell that one to put a bit of Bible in it, because I said there's not much biblical about our traditions. And as a perspective for those that's watching, this is mostly for people like us that's curious about where the traditions come from, the origin, and why we do it, and do we actually want to do it with how we follow things. And for also those that don't live in Denmark and are curious about our traditions. And unfortunately, we'll not be able to tell all the traditions, because it's just not possible in the time frame I have. And I have not had enough time to research this. So right now it'll be the most, what I find the top ones, not the more cozy times kind of things than that. So yeah, I hope you guys stick around and hear those interesting things. So let's start with a universal thing, colors. Now, why is the Danish Christmases, you will have gløgg, you will have Christmas tree, you'll sing carols about Jesus Christ. Even though Denmark is technically a Christian country, we are a Catholic Christian country. Am I saying that
Protestant.
Right? I mix the Danish and English up. That's why I'm asking Michael.
No, Protestant is English.
Yeah, but I mix up the different names of the Danish and English. I don't remember the actual title of it.
Fair enough.
Doesn't matter. But yeah, so Denmark is that, but we as Danes in the culture is everything but Christian. Basically, if people could, they would probably put us on a bonfire and fire us up for speaking delusional and that. That is the very typical Danish thing. So there's two worlds in living in Denmark, and especially in Christmas. There's the one where it's about Jesus, and the one where it's all about Nissa and Santa Claus and all these things and traditions. And that's why, for me, this has been very important, a lesson the last few Sundays, because what is Christian and what is just traditional? Where do they come from? And so for me, it has been what do you call it? What do you call it? That finding the ground of where do we get these things from? Because it is interesting, and no matter what, I find it, even though I don't agree with all the traditions, I find them beautiful. And like Michael says, it's a wonderful time to be with your family and experience. Yes, Michael?
Just want to point out that when you said the thing about the Danes celebrating with Santa Claus, it's not the Santa Claus that we talked about in the previous service. This is the Santa Claus magical human being who travels around the world in 8 hours and gives presents to the good kids and charcoal to the naughty kids. The whole fantasy version of Santa. That's the one we're referring to in this case, not the biblical Santa. Just to point out.
Good point. And to put a little extra, in Danish churches, they do actually also put a lot in words about Santa Claus, which is why it can be a very confusing time of year. And what I actually just read in doing my research for today, that it can be a very lonely time of year, which I totally understand, because even though a lot of us have family and friends and feel that love and what we're celebrating and gifts, there's also people who don't. But that is also just that thing with taking care of each other and nothing to do with colors. So let's get back to the color part. So Christmas in Denmark, or Christmas in general, originally had what do you call it, in 1200, what do you call it, in the 1200th century, is that what you call it?
12th.
In the 12th century. In the 12th century, God, in the 12th century, the Catholic Church, which Michael will translate now for me.
The Catholic Church.
Okay, it is Catholic, I wasn't doubt. They decided that it should be purple church. And if you followed the this service will mix a lot of the last four services of what I've been talking about Santa Claus, the different versions and so on. It's going to mix a lot of that together with what I'm telling now. But yeah, so in the 12th century, then the Catholic Church decided it to be purple, that Christmas should be purple. And you're probably wondering why. I definitely did. And it's because colors have meaning. And for them, then the purple literally means to be I can't say the word.
Interpretation.
Forventning. Forberedelse. Purple is the color preparation. That's what you call it. Another word than I was going for, but I can pronounce that word, so we're going with that one. And then in the start, and that went from the 12th century all the way to the 19th century, where then you saw Santa Claus men, as we heard about the other day with Saint Nick, where they made this big Santa Clauses on the streets in America for doing, what do you call it, homeless men or jobless men, being on there dressed as Santa Claus, but they were actually dressed in white and blue originally. The red and white, and I thought actually the red and white in Christmas in Denmark come from the Danish flag. I was so wrong. The red and white for Christmas comes from that Coca-Cola put Santa Claus on their bottle, but they wanted it to match with their sign. And as we all know what Coca-Cola's colors are, red and white, they matched it with. And that did that all the other stores just followed Coca-Cola. So from that on, then Santa Claus became red and white, and so did Christmas.
It's amazing how big of influence one single company can have globally. Amazing and
Yeah,
terrifying at the same time if you think about it.
I was just about to say that, yeah. So that's where the original colors come from. And I am just right now, like Michael says with the screen, I'm looking at my checklist because I'm tired of reading off from text as much as possible. So before in time, Danes, we would have fabric kind of gallons, like you actually can see lights. What's my thing? Lights up here, behind, like in front kind of thing, over me. You would have that in fabric form in white and red. And then what about Santa Claus? Not Santa Claus, Marianne. What about Christmas tree? Well, the Christmas tree itself has some different stories of their origin, but the main one is that it comes from Germany, and that at that point you would hang gifts up on the tree, or you would put them out without wrapping them. And from that also came that Christmas hearts, which to have a little special thing, I decided to take some from our actual Christmas tree at home. So, yeah, Michael's smiling like, of course you did. So this is a crocheted one, and for those that don't know, then you can have a little bit inside here. And this is made of this, what we call glanspapier, where it's like plasticky, shiny kind of thing, as you can see a bit.
Like
Now,
gloss paper.
thank you. It's nice to have a translator when your Duolingo brain goes all over the place. So it used to, Germany invented little julehjert, as we call them in Denmark, because it's basically paper waved into each other. But a Danish original is the handles. And you're thinking, okay, whatever. Well, as a Danish traditional song that comes Højt fra træets grønne top, high from the tall part of the tree, it sings that first the tree should be shown, then eaten. And that's because in olden days, you would then hang things up on the Christmas tree, and I just dropped something, hang something up on the Christmas tree, and we would have a Danish tradition like peonød and that you would put in here. And then when you've shown the Christmas tree, you could then go around and eat the things from the Christmas tree. So that's where some of these are still high in tradition, and nowadays it's becoming more tradition to use this what do you call them? Crocheted style and so on, more fabric and that. Yes, Michael?
Just want to put a little bit of historical context into why we Danes used to fill it up, because back in the day, we're talking like not even 100 years ago when we still did it, but as Mariana said, it came in the early 19th century. The reason why Danes used to fill it with different pastries was because it was the way for poor people to enjoy a warm Christmas, because presents back then, like they've come back to being today, can be monumentally expensive. And not everybody had access to that kind of finance, but what they could do was bake. So the families would bake different type of pastries, small and big, and decorate the trees with those that Marianne just showed in different forms, fill them with pastries, which is why the song, as she says, goes, first you gotta show the tree, afterwards you can eat the tree. By then meaning you can eat the pastries that are within the decorations on the trees, so that not only the adults could enjoy the visual view of it, but also the kids could get a sweet taste from the tree, when it wasn't always the case that they could actually have presents.
Yeah. And good point. And to put that, like Michael says, in old days, there was the industry revolution. And this, of course, changed a lot of things, like how massive production became. But before massive production, what did we do? Well, funny enough, guys, we actually made things ourselves. Basically, was that too mean?
No, I just love the way that you said before things, we actually had to get up our lazy asses and make things ourselves. It's so true, but it is also like a slap in the face to everybody in modern times because we've been. I mean, the modern day industry has made us incredibly lazy, myself included. I just found it was a hilarious thing to say that. It fits so well.
Without it, we couldn't do this on our screens. But yeah, I like your reaction. Oh, I hurt my jaw. Okay, so the homemade thing was that, like Michael said, that gifts were and are again expensive. Those days, just much more expensive, a lot more expensive. So you would make a lot homemade. So you would probably a daughter that's learned to crochet or knit. These things would make, and baked goods would come in, but also what do you call it? Oh, what do you call it? Snilga.
Carpentry.
Yeah, someone that works within carpentry, works with wood and that, like people that knows Lego originally were wooden toys. So if you were good with a knife and wood, you could do the same thing basically. And like I said in the start, you would hang the gifts from the tree, excuse me, and you would leave the gifts unwrapped. You didn't actually wrap presents. Oh boy. Presents up in those days. So you would come into a tree that were filled, wait a minute, filled with these, with it could be peppermint, what do you call it, pebermynte, knapperpastiller things we eat. It could be pebernødder and so on, different little things so you could go and eat of it, and also like the mint stock things you know of. And then at the bottom of the tree, there would be no wrapping. There would only be like, let's say, a little car or horse made out of wood because the dad or the older brother had been out and cutting wood, and the daughter and the mum or the grandma had knitted scarves for everyone or something because you were poor. You wanted heat. Everyone wants heat, otherwise you die. And I really do love, just as a little personal comment, that we're actually going back to the more homemade stuff. Like when I grew up, this was the highlight kind of a thing, and it's plastic, and I'm not against plastic. I just wish we would reuse instead of make new. But this is becoming much more popular, and I like that. I just hope it's not a trend that will fade away, because it is also something that stays with our traditions. It is tradition that a dad knows how to work a knife and a mum knows how to knit, and then all the grandparents do it, and they bring it to the child or the grandchildren, and so on, so on. I mean, there's a reason we can do all these things. That's because someone taught us. And 100 years ago, we didn't have all this YouTube and that. We actually had family by the fire to keep warm, sitting and learning to do these things because you didn't have internet. And that is a wonderful tradition. That is not only Danish tradition, and Danish traditions are a lot international, but that is something beautiful about the human race, how we continue it. It is an inheritance that we should not let go of. But like I said, this is German originally, this is Danish, and you would in old days hang them up and put sweets in. But Michael said in the start of the 19th century, we actually need to go much further back, because the start, this is the classic hearts, for those that don't know, look mainly like this, but I just didn't have one in that color. And you can see the colors, red and white, blue and red and that.
Well, I got ready for you if you're ready.
No, 2 seconds. I just want to finish this part off. Sure. I just got confused with the note. So, like I said, German origin. But why did it turn into paper? Well, in the 17th century, then paper, what do you call in Danish, papirklip, basically cutting out paper and making things out of it, that we today still do with hearts and angels and that, just became extremely popular. So it's just from a popular trend. That's basically it. Yes, Michael, can you read about the next colors?
Yeah, we'll start with red.
Mm-hmm.
So red actually is one of the most symbolical colors in the Bible, going all the way back to Genesis, actually.
Hmm?
Because in the Old Testament, red is actually translated as Odom, which actually means red clay.
It's translated to what?
Odom, I'm probably butchering that. Oudem, Odom.
Okay.
Now, why is that significant? Well, guess what Adam was made of?
No idea.
Dirt and clay, breathed into life. We're
Oh,
literally made from soil.
right. I didn't really focus there.
I could tell.
Yeah, I got
Uh,
distracted.
it is the root word for mankind. Biblical figures such as Adam in Genesis 2:7 and Esau in Genesis 25:25 have their names derived from the word Odom, which you can probably tell Odom is very similar to Adam.
I was thinking more to Odin.
Nah, wrong book.
Yeah, but it still sounds the same.
The
Yeah?
symbolism of red extends its meaning for mankind as a metaphor for humanity. In the Old Testament, the blood sacrifice of an animal meant atonement for one's sins. Again, the penalty for sin is death. Previous service on that one, which you find in Leviticus 17:11. By the way, I'm reading all this from a website called Christianity.com, in case anybody's interested. The Israelites also painted the blood of a Passover lamb offering in order for the angel of death to pass over their homes during the 10th and final plague of Egypt. Look at Exodus 12:1-13. However, red is most commonly associated with the blood of Jesus Christ that he spilled as the bond price for our salvation on the cross at Calvary. Read in Colossians 1:20. Now we're all familiar with the story of Jesus Christ. That's pretty much the whole reason why we do this.
And then for the white?
Give me a second. Got it here. Okay, white refers to holiness, light, purity, redemption, and the righteousness of Jesus Christ. Look at Mark 16, verse 5. Now, I also want to add, even though you didn't ask for it, I want to add purple as well, just so we can get biblical on purple. So purple
Sure.
represents royalty, majesty, and priesthood in the Bible, which you find in John chapter 19, verse 2. And the last one you actually asked for would be green. So, green being the color of vegetation symbolizes life, restoration, and new beginning. Look in Psalms 1:3. Green is also the color of resurrection, which we experience in spring, when the trees comes back to life after being hibernized, so to say, during the winter time.
Which also, if you think about that, if we take everything that I've studied and I shared with you guys the last 4 Christmases together, and let's say that December, that Jesus was born in September, and that in December it was Gabriel going to Mary, then that new beginning, that refreshment, that Jesus, I just called you Jesus, that Michael, that he just told about what green means. It fits with that that the Christmas tree represents within the Christian faith the tree of life, but also that a new beginning, something new is coming in that, which is very nice. Thank you, Annie. Yeah. And I oh yeah, and I just realized I'm wearing a green dress, so that's very fitting. Just as a little, was that to me?
Yeah.
No. Another little detail with the Danish traditions that a lot of people in Denmark find that a classic Danish Christmas tree is with hearts on, the Christmas hearts, usually in paper, but also flags on. And you're probably wondering, why are people doing this? Why are people so focused on it being red and white and so on? I know, I personally know some who only have a Christmas tree where the decoration is purely red and white. And it's because that, oh, some Christmas picture instead, that that when Denmark, the southern of Jutland in Denmark, within the, what was it, within a war with Germany, they were overtaken by Germany and they were simply not allowed to display any Danish. They were not allowed to say anything like nothing, 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 nothing. So they actually provoked it to make sure like Denmark still stands. And by that, they would like take red and white clothes and hang them out to dry on the front of their, what do you call it, bushes, so that you would get the red and white color of Denmark in that. And so it became a thing to display as much as possible the Danish colors, red and white, as our flag is, to represent us, to show to Germany. So that is where the colors come from, why we are suddenly, oh, not suddenly, why we're doing that. And the war I'm talking about is after the war in 1864, where it was, as in this website that I'll share the link with, it is as a quiet protest instead of yeah. So they weren't allowed to flag with the Danish flag or anything. So they tried to do a quiet protest that way. Yes, Michael?
Just want to put a little bit of historical context into why we Danes, or why a lot of us, are so attached to our flag. Not only because our flag is the oldest recorded flag in the world,
Your mic,
but what?
Your microphone went weird for a second there. So maybe speak slower in case if something goes wrong.
That could be. I'll try. You know, I can't hear myself when that happens, but I'll try. Anyways, we don't know exactly how we got our flag, but the legend goes, and there's always a little bit of truth in legends. The legend goes that we were in a battle, and somehow a fabric that was colored like our flag fell down from the sky into the hands of our king. I believe he was called Valdemar at that point. Valdemar the Second, if I'm not mistaken. And he saw that as a sign from God that he was on our side in the battle, and that, as the Bible says, when God is with us, no weapon formed against us can prevail. So it was our flag means a heavenly support for our country during troubled times. So in that way, it makes sense to why so many of us Danes. I will point out I'm not included in those, but that's beside the point. But so many Danes are so attached to the flag because of not only how old it is, but the meaning behind it. Just want to put that out there.
And another thing that, another comment to Michael's comments, is that Danes are also very powerful when it comes to the global things. I mean, for how small a country we are. I mean, if you ask an American if they know Lego or H.C. Andersen, or they know about the Opera House in Disney and that's
Sydney.
Such Danish things. What?
Sydney, not Disney.
Disney, didn't I?
Yep.
Yeah, makes words up. But there's so much that such a little country we can do, and how strong we are despite how we are with some things. that. And that for me is also really special with how powerful we are. And not just that, but our passports too. I mean, as a half Danish, half English, I have considered getting also an English passport. But right now I have a Danish one. And that Danish one, you most countries you go to, they know you're not an attack, but that you're strong, and that passport just shows that thing. So you know you can feel less worried about it. And I know that feeling also with going into countries in Asia and going to America. Like it's like a magic card because it's like you're giving the white flag without giving the white flag, and I really like that because of how strong we are, but also we're not trying to go around murder and kill anyone or anything like that, and because how small we are, but at the same time how strong, and I just love that.
Yeah, fun
um
fact when you actually also mentioned Disney, another point at how incredible our history is. Disneyland is actually based on our famous amusement park, Tivoli. Walt Disney
yep.
actually went to Tivoli before he created Disneyland, saw how we did it, and said, "This is a magical place.
Mm.
I'm gonna recreate it in my own way." And then we got Disneyland.
Very true, which I've done research about because of my studies. I had to learn about Lego, the company and that. But the Tivoli that Michael's talking about is actually if not the, then one of the oldest amusement parks in the world.
Yeah,
But it's also,
we have the two oldest, I believe.
yeah, yeah, Bergen is the second one.
Yeah.
No, it's very modernized, but it's a nice place, especially if you don't have social anxiety. I'm saying that for fun because both me and Michael have different social anxieties, so it's kind of that I have been there before, but it's one of those. Whew.
Yeah, I've never been to Bergen.
No, I've been there once. Now, I thought I would show a little thing. This is not my own. This is my all honor to my mom of her making. But so I just wanted to read up a bit because this is a lot of stuff. Um, this is from Wikipedia. I know some are a bit sketchy with that one, but hey, go and do a bit of research yourself if you're sketchy about it. I trust it enough. So it says the red color, which is why I wanted something visual. The red color symbolizes Jesus' blood. The green, and we use, as you can see, this is a very simple traditional Danish decoration. Usually there's a big candle in here, like a very big one, or a few small ones, or one long small one, which I'll get to in a minute. But there's a few different greens here, different green kinds of colors, and I can smell it. It smells so nice and Christmassy. Anyway, the green symbolizes eternal love, eternal life. I mean, not love. And especially still Squanatrea, which I have no idea what it is. I believe it. Oh yeah, I believe it's the trees that the leaves don't drop, so they are green all the year round. Especially them, it says that don't lose the leaves in the winter, and gold, which we don't have on this one. I'm gonna put that down. That hurts my shoulder. Goes from, or it symbolizes one of the three gifts that Jesus got when he was born. But this is, even though, like I said, Denmark is not a Christian country, even though they are, like I said earlier, then you could also symbolize a lot of the colors from that. But yeah, so traditional Danish, or the original Danish decorations, came from Christmas tree from Germany, and then we used the natural things because we were too poor to buy a lot of stuff, and we haven't gone into the mass production too much. Berries too. A lot of traditions was with dried natural things. So berries, you would see kind of like these branches, but with roses. So you would see like rose thorns on two, and that would also be on. But yeah, so very different ones, and it just smells good, I find.
Just want to put some biblical references on the color gold. or yellow, since you mentioned it,
Mhm.
just so we making sure to put the scriptures to most things we references. So
Sure.
yellow is referenced in the Bible by the Hebrew word, and I'm sorry to anybody who speaks Hebrew. I don't, so I'm gonna butcher this one. I already know. I apologize. Charot, which refers to the precious metal gold. Gold represents the sovereignty of God. In the Old Testament, Solomon had the temple built and overlaid in gold, even down to the priest's utensils, as in knives and forks and spoons. You'll see that in 1 Kings 6. At Jesus' birth, like you mentioned, one of the gifts he received was gold. You'll find that in Matthew 2, verse 11.
And a little bit fast back to Christmas hearts. A lot of Danes would say that the Christmas hearts were made in Denmark by H.C. Andersen, aka Hans Christian Andersen, but that is incorrect in a sense. Hans Christian Andersen made one. His gift was, it's so been told that he went around telling children stories while doing paperclip, as explained earlier, and giving it out. And one gift he gave once was a little julehjerte of paper to some special royalty or something like that. But at that point, it was not a Christmas decoration, and it was never seen as that. Also, the colors did not fit. So he had made a Christmas julehjerte, or to be more technical, a flittle julehjerte, but it was nothing to do with Christmas. Just to make that more clear for those that might be a bit, but isn't it Danish originally? Nope.
Also, one thing on Hans Christian Andersen, he everybody knows he was a poet and a fairy tale writer. I mean, one of his most famous ones is The Little Mermaid, which is known globally. One thing that is less known about him outside of Scandinavia is he was actually very well traveled outside of Denmark, mainly in Germany. So he could easily have picked up some German Christmas traditions and brought them back to Denmark, just in a different form. Like you said, with that he made the heart. He could have seen that in Germany and then just didn't use the Christmas part of it, but thought that the heart was inspiring.
Yeah.
That's my own theory anyway, about the heart. It's not a theory that he was well traveled. That is well documented. Just to make that clear.
I do find it interesting compared to those days. You didn't have as many travel options. It was more expensive, definitely not as easy, and the luggage those days. I mean, now I could travel for a week in a backpack. Those days you had those big, what we call in England, trunks, and well, they would be very heavy and that.
Yeah, suitcase for anybody else.
Yeah, you call them suitcases too, right? There's multiple things I know as trunks. That's why it's confusing sometimes with what's what. And then
yeah, also the boot of the car.
Yeah, and then you get Americanized from all these movies and shows, so you're like, what's what? Welcome to multilingual people. And when you're a Brit but you learn American, it's very confusing. And then as a last thing, I believe it was the last. I'm just gonna double check. Yeah, it is the last one. The calendar lights. Now, I talked already about the chocolate calendar. The calendar light started off with, not necessarily poor people, but people having that long light. Doesn't say necessarily which color, whether it had any specific colors. And as you can hear in the other services, where I talk about the different colors for the Adventskrans, a lot of people know of this one, then instead people they literally just drew on the light to count down to Christmas. Well, they would then turn on the big light on Christmas. So you would have the Adventskrans with the 4 different colored lights that at some point turn to white, and then possibly the middle light that represents Jesus and that Christmas is here now, that you would turn on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Then you would have the Advent Lys, and not the every Sunday one, the daily one that people would have drawn on for like 1, 2, 3, 4, well, actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on and that. And that also fits with another thing that I thought about, electricity. Today, it's traditional that you have normal candles, but you can also have electric candles with cablers. We have cablers. My parents have a cable, but used to have these very like this thin, this tall, small candles in a metal spring that you would put onto the branch here in on days in Denmark, and you would have live, real fire on the trees, which in a sense sounds very dangerous, and it probably was very much. But the way I see it was with the candles, because there was some electricity in those days, then they had these lights to keep every day counting, and then for the big special day, they had even more lights out to like have much more light, because today we have all these lamps and that, so we don't react the same way as those days. So now it's like, it was more dramatic at that point because you had these big lights. It was fancy. You suddenly had one day where you could light up so many candles, which otherwise would be seen as a waste because you only had those for that money or how much you could make in that. And I need to breathe from saying all that. And as Michael said, with what red originally was from and that, then the traditional candle weekly calendar light we had, that was actually made of now I've got the English word,
Clay.
And we still do that today. Again, today we would have a plate or bowl here, and we would have clay inside, and then you would stick the branches in and have natural decorations, and you would have maybe like, depending on how big some have small ones, some have really big ones. Then you could also have close to hanging. Yeah, a real Danish Christmas, huh? Oh, it smells so good. I keep on sniffing to it. But yeah, so the traditional Danish one was to basically decorate with the kind of green, the kind of grantræ,
Pine trees.
the kind of pine trees, because they would last longer, so it would be less messy and better to keep. And that with dry natural decorations, and you would have clay at the bottom to keep everything stuck in that. So that was our traditions. And oh, it smells so good.
Also, just a little fun fact about pine trees. If you take a certain type of pine tree, I can't remember the name of it. The one Mariana has there for Christmas decoration is called Normannsgran, because it's usually found here in the north. But pine nettles, or needles actually, pine needles, you can actually turn into a very healthy tea full of vitamin E, which of course, then with poor people, you find natural resources that are very healthy to you: berries, nuts, pine nettles. So that, again, first you show the tree, later you eat the tree, or in this case, drink it.
But yeah, so Denmark's traditions with Christmas is that the tree should be light and bright with different colors on. Some have it where it should be red and white, and that you have the countdown calendar to remind you of what's to come. That now I can't say the word again. Anticipation.
Oh, anticipation.
Thank you. I was waiting for you to say that. There we go. And then we had a lot of things, like we had beer, but that's one of the subjects I can't go into detail right now because time's up, basically. We had beer, we had pebernødder, pebermyntelinser, and all this was home baked. We had brunekager, we had gingerbread cakes, and that we had, of course, those where we would have a Santa Claus, or, you know, those gingerbread cakes that you would have hanging up on the actual Christmas tree, and that. and then you would look at it because you decorated it with icing, and so on. A little fun fact also is in Denmark you would have something called a kransekage, which is mainly made of marzipan. But in olden days, marzipan was very, very expensive. So in olden days, and Michael's probably going to freak about this because he hates some of this food, you would take mashed potato and then thicken it with confectioner's sugar or powdered sugar, whichever version of that item you know, and Menel extract. Menel, oh, what's that again in English?
Almond.
Almond extract, and you would mix it together, and that would become a poor man's marzipan dish thing. And yeah, you make a lot of marzipan things in Denmark. You also make a lot with honey. They have honey. They have something called honningkager, honninghjerter, whereas these hearts made of this kind of honey inner stuff, cake with chocolate outside. And I say they because I do not like these cakes. I barely like any of Christmas cakes actually. But that's the Danish traditional ones. These is not unfortunately English ones, which I prefer actually most. But yeah, it's Danish ones which people like Michael really, really enjoy. And my family does too. And it just gets the family together that you bake these and the house smells wonderful, and you put it in the Christmas tree. You put it in the Christmas tree so it can be shown and eaten, you know. And yeah, you enjoy that. And like I said before, there's so many other traditions from beer to that, whether what you eat of meat for Christmas and that. But a lot of it goes to that it's not only Danish, or it's not Danish originally, or the Danish made their own extra from the original or something. But I find that the time is gone.
Yeah.
Very fast. I didn't expect that it would take this long actually. And I hope you guys enjoyed it all. I hope you learned a little bit about it. And most of all, I hope that you see the perspectives and you can take your own, not judgment, but your own opinion from it and decide where you want to go with it. And that you have a peaceful after Christmas. You will look after yourselves when it comes to New Year's and fireworks. And you just have a very lovely time until we see you next year in a week. 1 week. So, and like I said, it's been an honor to take these Sundays and to learn more about it for myself, for Michael, and also for you guys, because if it wasn't for this, I might not have researched this as deeply, because now I actually have something I have to hold on to. I'm like, oh, I need to do this for today. So, yeah, it's been very nice.
Well, thank you for this, Marina, and thank you for the whole research you've done for this December service theme. And you've done a very, very good job, and also taught me a lot of things that I didn't know. So
That's good.
I appreciate that. And as you said, yeah, with us doing this requires us to also get more knowledgeable on things. We don't know everything, and we never will. And I can confidently say, if you ever meet a Christian who claims to know everything, you know they're full of it. You know they are lying their teeth out, because no one ever can, ever will. There's only one that knows everything, and he's up there, figuratively speaking.
When I get to talk, then also like Michael says, no Christians know everything about the God, and that, of course, is the same as you ask any other human being if they know everything about life, or everything about being a teenager or a child or a newborn or as an older or something, even though they're in that life, even though they might be presenting themselves very well or be very arrogant, whichever, and that. We are all humans, we're all imperfect, and we are all subjective. And for those that don't know what that means, we all see the perspective of the world from our own, from what we've experienced in that. So if someone says something with a lot of hate, it might not be because the thing's bad, it might be because that they've experienced a lot of hardship in their life. Which is why you shouldn't go 100% with just what one person should say, because then you only get one perspective. And like they say with arguments and fights and whatever, There's always at least two sides to a story. So go with that and go with peace and enjoy time with family and friends if you can. And otherwise, it's okay to sit on the sofa and just chill. I'm going to do that in a bit if there's a sofa place for me.
Yeah. So with that all said, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this. And if you watch it on a later date, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you first time in the new year, the 5th of January, and a reintroduction to who are we.
So be blessed and Happy New Year! I
Bye,
just want to
folks.
say bye!